Chapter 5. A disrespectful sound alerted Mandrake to the return of the scrying glass imp. He put aside the pen with which he was scribbling notes for the latest war pamphlets and stared into the polished disc. The baby's distorted features pressed up against the surface of the bronze as if it were frantically trying to push free. Mandrake ignored its writhing. "Well?" he asked. "Well, what?" The imp groaned and strained. "Where's Bartimaeus?" "Sitting on a lump of masonry 26 miles southeast of here in the shape of a long-haired girl. Very pretty she is and all, but she ain't coming." "What? He refused?" "Yep. Oh, it's dreadful tight in here. 6 years I've been inside this disc with never a glimpse of home. You might let me out. You really might. I've served you heart and soul." "You have no soul," Mandrake said. "What did Bartimaeus say?" "I can't tell you. You're that young. It was rude, mind. Made my ears wax up. Well, he ain't coming voluntarily, and that's all there is to it. Burn him and have done, I say. Can't think why you ain't snuffed him already. Oh, not back into that drawer again! Can't you have mercy, you hateful boy?" With the disc wrapped and the drawer shut fast, Mandrake rubbed his eyes. The Bartimaeus problem was growing intractable. The Jinni was weaker and more cantankerous than ever, almost useless as a servant. In all logic, he should let him go, but, as always, he found the thought distasteful. Quite why was hard to say, since alone of all his slaves, the Jinni never treated him with anything approaching respect. His abuse was tiring, exasperating beyond measure, and also oddly refreshing. Mandrake lived in a world where true emotions skulked forever behind politely smiling masks. But Bartimaeus made no pretense of his dislike. Where Ascobal and co. were emollient and fawning, Bartimaeus was as impertinent now as the day he first met him, back when he was just a child, owner of an entirely different name. Mandrake's mind had drifted. He coughed and drew himself up. That was the basic point, of course. The Jinni knew his birth name, a risky thing for a man in his position. If another magician summoned him and learned what the demon knew... He sighed. His mind trundled from one well-worn track to another. A dark-haired girl. Pretty. No prizes for guessing the Jinni's guise. Ever since Kitty Jones had died, Bartimaeus had used her shape to mock him. Not without success, either. Even 3 years on, visualizing her face gave Mandrake a sharp pang in his side. He shook his head in weary self-reproach. Forget her. She was a traitor, dead and gone. Well, the wretched demon was of no importance. The pressing issue was the growing disruption caused by the war. That, and the dangerous new abilities appearing among the commoners. Fratang's tale of the egg-throwing urchins was just the latest in a long line of troublesome accounts. Since Gladstone, magicians had observed a basic rule. The less commoners knew about magic and its tools, the better. Thus, every slave, from the scrawniest imp to the most arrogant afrit, was ordered to avoid unnecessary exposure when out on their master's business. Some utilized the power of invisibility. Most went in disguise. So it was that the myriad demons thronging the streets of the capital or rushing above its rooftops went, as a rule, unnoticed. But now, this was no longer the case. Each week brought new accounts of demonic exposure. A flock of messenger imps was spotted above Whitehall by a squealing group of school children. Magicians reported that the imps had been correctly disguised as pigeons. They should not have aroused suspicion. Days later, a jeweler's apprentice, newly arrived in London, ran wild-eyed down Horseferry Road and leaped over the river wall into the Thames. Witnesses claimed he had screamed warnings of ghosts among the crowds. Close inquiry revealed that spy demons were at work in Horseferry Road that day. If commoners were being born with the power to see demons, the disruption that had lately plagued London could only get worse. Mandrake shook his head irritably. He needed to visit a library, look for historical precedent. Such an outbreak might have happened before. But he had no time. The present was difficult enough. The past would have to wait. A knock at the door. His servant entered unobtrusively, keeping well away from the pentacles on the floor. "The deputy police chief is here to see you, sir." Mandrake's forehead wrinkled in surprise. "Oh, really? Very well. Show her up." It took 3 minutes for the servant to descend to the reception room 2 floors below and return with the visitor, giving Mr. Mandrake ample time to draw out a small pocket mirror and inspect himself carefully. He smoothed down his shorn hair where it stuck up in a tuft. He brushed a few motes of dust from off his shoulders. Satisfied at last, he immersed himself in the papers on his desk, a model of zealous, well-kempt industry. He recognized that such preening was laughable, but he did it anyway. He was always self-conscious when the deputy police chief came to see him. A brusque knock, with light feet and deft, decisive movements, Jane Farrar entered and crossed the room, carrying an orb case in one hand. Mr. Mandrake half stood courteously, but she waved him back down. "You don't need to tell me what an honor this is, John. I'll take it as read. I've got something important to show you." "Please." He indicated a leather chair beside the desk. She sat, laying the orb case heavily on the table, and grinned at him. Mandrake grinned back. They grinned like 2 cats facing each other over an injured mouse, sleek and strong and confident in their mutual distrust. The Golem affair 3 years earlier had ended with the death and disgrace of the police chief Henry Duval, and since then the Prime Minister had not seen fit to appoint a successor. In fact, in a mark of his increasing distrust of the magicians around him, he had awarded himself the title and relied upon the deputy police chief to do most of the work. For 2 years, Jane Farrar had fulfilled this role. Her aptitude was well known. It had allowed her to survive a close association with Mr. Duval and work her way back into Mr. Devereux's favor. She and Mandrake were now 2 of his closest allies. For that reason, between themselves they were aching cordial. Nevertheless, their old rivalry bristled beneath the surface. Mandrake found her disconcerting for another reason. She was still very beautiful. Her hair long and darkly gleaming, her eyes wry and green beneath long lashes. Her looks distracted him. It took all the confidence of his maturity to keep pace with her in conversation. He slouched casually in his seat. "I've got something to tell you, too," he said. "Who's first?" "Oh, go on. After you. But hurry up." "Okay. We must get the PM interested in these new abilities some commoners are getting. Another of my demons was spotted yesterday. It was kids again. I don't need to tell you the trouble this brings." Miss Farrar's elegant brows furrowed. "No," she said. "You don't. This morning we've got new reports of strikes by dock workers and machinists, walkouts, demonstrations, not just in London, but the provinces too. It's being organized by men and women with these unusual powers. We're going to have to round them up." "But the cause, Jane, what is it?" "We can find out when they're safely in the tower. We've spies working through the pubs now, getting information. We'll come down hard. Anything more? We need to discuss the latest attack in Kent, too, but that can wait till council." Miss Farrar reached out 2 slender fingers and unzipped her case, pulling back the cloth to expose a small crystal orb, blue-white and perfect, with a flattened base. She pushed it towards the center of the desk. "My turn," she said. The magician sat up a little. "One of your spies?" "Yes. Now pay attention, John. This is important. You know that Mr. Devereux has asked me to keep close watch on our magicians, in case anyone tries to follow in the footsteps of Duval and Lovelace?" Mr. Mandrake nodded. "More than the American rebels, more than their enemies in Europe, more than the angry commoners demonstrating on the streets. The Prime Minister feared his ministers, the men and women who sat at his table and drank his wine. It was a justified anxiety. His colleagues had ambitions. Nevertheless, it distracted him from other pressing business." "What have you found?" he asked. "Something." She passed a hand across the orb, leaning forward so that her long black hair fell down around her face. Clearing his throat, Mandrake leaned forwards too, enjoying, as always, her scent, her shape, their shared proximity. Dangerous and feline as she was, Miss Farrar's company had its charms. She spoke a few words. Grains of blue ran away across the surface of the orb to collect in a pool near the bottom. The upper surface was left clear. Here, an image formed. A face of shadows. It flickered, moved, but did not draw near. Miss Farrar looked up. "This is Yole," she said. "Yole has been keeping watch on a certain junior magician who has aroused my interest. Name of Palmer, second level. Works in the Home Office. He has been passed over for promotion several times and is a frustrated man. Yesterday, Palmer reported in sick. He did not go to work. Instead, he left his apartment on foot and made his way to an inn near Whitechapel. He wore common workman's clothes. Yule here followed him and can relay what occurred. I think it will interest you." Mandrake made a non-committal gesture. "Please proceed." Jane Farrar snapped her fingers and spoke into the orb. "Show me the inn, with sound." The shadowy face retreated, vanished. An image formed inside the orb. Rafters, whitewashed walls, a trestled table beneath a hanging brass light. Smoke drifted against grimy pebble-glass windows. The viewpoint was low down. It was as if they were lying on the floor. Dowdy women passed above, and men in rough-cut suits. Faintly, as if from far away, came laughter, coughing, and the chink of glasses. A man sat at the trestle table, a burly gentleman in middle age, somewhat pink about the face, with gray flecks in his hair. He wore a shabby overcoat and a soft cap. His eyes ranged ceaselessly back and forth, evidently scanning the people in the inn. Mandrake leaned closer, taking in a gentle breath. Farrar's perfume was especially strong that day. There was something pomegranate-y about it. "That's Palmer, is it?" he asked. "This is an odd angle we've got. Too low." She nodded. "Yule was a mouse by the skirting board. He wished to be unobtrusive, but it was a costly error. Wasn't it, Yule?" She stroked the surface of the orb. A voice from within, whimpering and meek.
"Yes, mistress?"
Yes, that's Palmer. Ordinarily a very dapper fellow. Now, this is important. It's hard to see from down here, but he has a pint of beer in his hand." "Remarkable," Mandrake murmured. "This being a pub and all." "Definitely pomegranates, and possibly a hint of lemon." "Just wait. He's watching for someone." Mandrake considered the figure in the orb. As was to be expected in a magician among commoners, Mr. Palmer seemed ill at ease. His eyes moved constantly. Sweat glistened on his neck and shiny forehead. Twice he lifted his glass as if to drink his ale.
Twice he halted with it at his lips and replaced it slowly on the table out of sight.
Nervous, Mandrake said. Yes, poor Palmer.
She spoke softly, but something in her tone carried the sharpness of a knife. Mandrake breathed in again. That hint of tartness was just right. Set off the sweeter scent quite nicely. Miss Farrar coughed.
Something wrong with your chair, Mandrake?
She inquired.
Any further forward and you'll be in my lap.
He looked up hurriedly from the orb, narrowly avoiding crashing his forehead into hers. Sorry, Farrar, sorry. He cleared his throat, spoke in a deep voice. It's just the tension. Can't pull myself away. I wonder what this Palmer's game is. A most suspicious character. He pulled absently at a cuff. Miss Farrar regarded him for a moment, then gestured at the orb.
Well, observe.
Into view from the side of the orb came a newcomer, carrying a pint of beer. He went bareheaded, his ginger hair slicked back, dirty worker's boots and trousers shuffling beneath a long black raincoat. With casual but deliberate steps, he drew near to Mr. Palmer, who had shuffled over on his bench to make room for him. The newcomer sat. He placed his beer upon the table and pushed his glasses higher on his little nose. Mr. Mandrake was transfixed.
Wait,
he hissed.
I know him.
Yol, Farrar ordered,
halt the scene.
The two men in the orb were half turning their heads to greet one another. At her command, the image froze.
That's good,
Farrar said.
You recognize him?
Yes. That's Jenkins. Clive Jenkins. Worked in internal affairs with me. Still may do for all I know. Secretary level. Going nowhere.
Well now, this is interesting. You wait.
Her fingers snapped. Mandrake noted their pale pink nail polish, the soft color of her cuticles. The image in the orb restarted. The heads of the two men turned, nodded at each other, looked away. The newcomer, Clive Jenkins, took a sip of beer. His lips moved. Half a second later, his voice, tinny and distorted, was audible in the orb.
Now then, Palmer. Things are moving fast, and it's decision time. We need to know if you're in or if you're out.
Mr. Palmer took a long drink from his glass. His face gleamed with perspiration. His eyes were never still. He mumbled rather than spoke. I need more information. Jenkins laughed, adjusted his spectacles.
Relax. I'm not going to bite you, Palmer. Information you'll get. But first we need proof of your good intentions.
The other man made an odd champing motion with his lips and teeth. When have I ever given you reason to doubt me?
You haven't. But you haven't given us much reason to believe in you either. We need proof.
How? You mean a test?
Of sorts. Mr. Hopkins needs to see your commitment for himself. You could be police for all we know, working for Devereux or that bitch Farrar.
He took another sip of beer.
Can't be too careful.
Outside the orb, in another time and another place, John Mandrake looked up at Jane Farrar and raised an eyebrow. She smiled lazily, showing a pointed canine.
Hopkins,
he began.
You think that's the same one? The scholar who showed Duval how to work the golems?
Farrar said.
The missing link of the last conspiracy. Yes, I do. But listen.
Mr. Palmer was in the middle of a red-faced expostulation, working himself up into an agony of wounded reproach. Clive Jenkins said nothing. Finally, Palmer's tirade finished. He subsided like a limp balloon. Well, what do you want me to do? He said. I'm warning you, Jenkins. You better not be setting me up. He raised his glass to refresh himself. As he did so, Jenkins seemed to flinch. His patched elbow knocked the other's arm. The pint glass jerked. Beer dashed against the table. Palmer gave a little mew of anger. You clumsy fool! Jenkins offered no apology.
If you do what's required,
He said,
you'll reap the rewards along with me and the rest. You're to meet him. Here.
when?
Then. That's all. I'm going now.
Without another word, the slight ginger-haired man slipped out from behind the trestle table and disappeared from view. For a few minutes, Mr. Palmer remained sitting, his red face blank and desperate. Then he too departed. Miss Farrar snapped her fingers. The image faded. Far in the distance, the face of Shadows reluctantly returned. Farrar sat back in her chair.
Needless to say,
She said,
Yul failed us. From his vantage point as a mouse, he could not see the surface of the table. He did not think that Jenkins had spilled the beer on purpose, nor that he had written the hour and place of meeting in the liquid on the table. Well, Yul followed Palmer for the remainder of the day and saw nothing. That night he reported back to me. While he was so doing, Palmer left his flat and did not come back. Evidently, he went to keep his appointment with the mysterious Hopkins.
John Mandrake tapped his fingers together eagerly.
We shall have to interrogate Mr. Palmer when he returns. Therein lies a problem. At dawn this morning, engineers working at the Rotherhide sewage works saw something lying on a midden. They thought at first it was a pile of rags.
Mandrake hesitated.
Not, I fear so. It was the body of Mr. Palmer. He had been stabbed through the heart.
Oh, Mandrake said.
That's awkward. It is indeed. But it is promising, too.
Jane Farrar passed a hand across the orb. It darkened, became a cold, dull blue.
It means that this Clive Jenkins of yours and this Hopkins are planning something big. Big enough to involve quite casual murder. And we're onto it.
Her eyes gleamed with excitement. Her long black hair was a little disheveled. Several wisps flew down across her brow. Her face was flushed, and she was breathing quickly. Mandrake adjusted his collar slightly.
Why are you telling me this now, outside counsel? Because I trust you, John, and I don't trust any of the others.
She pushed the wisps away from her eye.
Whitwell and Mortensen are both intriguing against us. You know that. We've no friends in council, apart from the PM. If we can flush out these traitors ourselves, our position will be admirably strengthened.
He nodded.
True. Well, it's clear what to do. Send a demon to tail Clive Jenkins and see if he can lead us to the truth.
Miss Farrar zipped the crystal orb into its bag and stood.
I'll leave that to you, if I may. Yo's hopeless, and my others are all on assignment. It's observation only at this stage. You won't need anything powerful. Or are all your jinn tied up?
Mandrake looked towards the silent pentacles.
No,
he said slowly.
I'm sure I'll be able to find someone.